Hello everybody, welcome to another D-Link video. We're here today to discuss the results of the Wi-Fi survey, which we recently did via social media. We had an overwhelming response to the survey and we're eager to share the results with you, go through what we found out and share some solutions for some of the issues that were highlighted within the survey. With me today, I've got Sophie Morrow from our PR team here at D-Link.
Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello.
So the point of the D-Link Wi-Fi survey was to find out people's pain points in and around their home Wi-Fi connections. It's not always about buying new equipment. Sometimes there is just legitimate advice that we can give to people over their existing equipment, but sometimes it does get to the point where maybe it is time to upgrade. So we're going to run through the questions now, look at the responses, and then maybe go into a few points and tips from D-Link that can help you out, get you a better connection and increase the coverage range on your existing equipment, or advise you when you really do need to go out and look at something new. So the first question.
Okay, I'm going to fire away here. So the first question that we asked was, are you happy with your home Wi-Fi? Okay, simple question. I thought it would come out very differently to how it has. And the respondents answered yes, 50% are happy, but that means obviously that 50% are not happy, which is such a shock in this day and age of technological advancements that we've still got 50% of the UK not happy with their Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Adam, I mean, talk me through why.
Well,
is this?
I think this question basically could be the last question of the survey, because I think what we, Sophie, as we go through here, is we see why people are unhappy. They have old equipment. They don't know that they can upgrade their router. They think that the router is very ugly, so they keep it hidden away. Even in some cases. So I think we can see why people are unhappy, and there's some very basic tweaks that they can make to make it a better experience for them all. And I think that home Wi-Fi is a little bit more under the microscope at the moment because of the increase in working from home. When the children come home from school, so say that 3 to 5 periods in the afternoon, your kids are up on social media, they're draining the bandwidth. You're trying to download a big Photoshop file from the Google Drive. It's 2 gig. And it's taking forever because they're streaming videos by their favorite creator. So I think some of the unhappiness comes from more demands being put on everyday internet connections at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I often find as well, kind of in the evenings a bit later, that I do get a bit of stuttering with my streaming when I'm trying to watch a film or something. And I think it's just kind of like in the house, everybody's in their own sort of separate rooms doing their own thing. And I'm like,
time, yeah. Well, that could be a house, and that could also be just more demand on the network overall. Because yesterday, for instance, Amazon Prime was streaming live football. And tonight there'll be again. So from 7:30 to about 10 o'clock, there's going to be hundreds of thousands of people watching football live on Amazon Prime here in the UK. So the demands on the network are definitely going to increase.
Yeah, of course. Understood. It doesn't ever make it less annoying, though, let's be honest.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
It really doesn't. So let's go on to question 2 and find out what that was all about. So the second question we asked everybody was, do you know how old your router is? Now, I'll be honest, I've never really known how old my router is. I could have a guess, but basically I have no idea. So I'm just as bad as these people. But basically, the answers came out that only 5% of people said that their router was brand new. 18% said it was 2 to 4 years old. 55% said they had no idea. And the rest, which was 22%, so nearly a quarter, said it was 4 to 6 years. I mean, that kind of comes out how I imagined it to come out, because I still don't think people realise how important a new router is for good Wi-Fi.
Whilst it's a lot easier now to switch your ISP a lot of people don't do it and they kind of stick with who they've got. My ISP, when my 18-month contract runs out, they email me a new offer and end up sticking with them because I think they're fairly good. But I'm not going to name them on the stream because we're ISP neutral, obviously. So what happens when you stick with the same ISP? Sometimes they don't send you new equipment. Whereas if you were to transfer from, let's say, PlusNet to TalkTalk would send you a new router. And or if you're moving house and you take that as time to find a new provider, you'll get a new router then. So kind of by people are upgrading their routers kind of by accident or not knowing. But yeah, the real Soph is that 77%, so adding up the bottom two, their routers are either plus years old or they have no idea. So I can't even guess what wireless standard they'd be on. The current standard Wi-Fi 6 around in 2019. So for instance, these could be on wireless AC, they could be on wireless N, which will really limit the performance of the router to be able to offer the coverage that they need for a big house or the speeds that they'd expect from their ISP.
Okay, I get that. That makes absolute sense. I mean, ultimately what we're saying really is you could do with an upgrade.
Yes, and that takes us nicely on to the next question.
Yes, and the next question, question 3, is, do you know you can upgrade your router? And drum roll please, 54% of people said yes and 46 said no. So again, that's a massive amount of people who don't realize that they can upgrade their router. Yes. Or maybe it's they do know that they should do, but they just don't know how and what to get.
Yeah, I kind of think this relates in, because I think if you ask these people a similar question, which is what is the difference between a modem and a router, I think that less than 54% would actually know. So a lot of people think that if you upgrade one, or you buy a combined unit with both of them in, but your modem never needs to be upgraded. It's just it takes a signal and then transmits it to the router, which will then fire the signal around the house. So the router is the device that does all of the work in this case. So for instance here, this is the everyday example that we use is you've got all of these devices in your house, which are powered by radio waves from the wireless router. We'll look at that in a little bit more depth. We won't go too far into depth on radio waves and things like that. But it's firing out these radio waves around the house. So there's obviously a lot of things that can interfere with radio waves. And again, we'll look at those later on. But more and more devices get added, the more and more likely you are to drop connection. And then you will see the dreaded exclamation mark. Now, the exclamation mark might be because your internet has dropped out, because your wireless router is old and getting a bit unreliable, or this might be a particular corner of your house where the wireless signal doesn't reach because the antenna on top aren't strong enough. So as I said, you can see towards the bottom of the presentation here that the router sits in the radio wave spectrum here, very close to electrical towers and microwaves. And then over here, we've got satellite dishes. So you can see there that there's clearly some overlap between the sorts of radio waves that microwaves use, that a router uses, and that can cause interference. So the big recommendation is don't put your router near your microwave because they use a similar frequency when they are transmitting out a signal. Okay, so next question related to that very theme there. So Karen, how many people are actually having problems with
So question 4 was, do you have any problems with Wi-Fi coverage, with dropouts and slow speeds? And 45% of people said yes, 55% said no. Again, that's a massive amount that are having problems, nearly half. I mean, you've kind of talked about those issues and how to solve them, but do those stats surprise you? And And who do you think it is that's actually, what do you think the breakdown of what kind of people are actually getting these issues?
I wrote a blog for dealing.com recently, which I put in there that I don't think that people expect enough from their Wi-Fi. So this statistic doesn't surprise me. Yes, 45%. But at the same time, when 77% of people don't know how old or their router is at least 4 years old, I don't think people have expectations. And I don't think people use speed tests enough. I think that they just think, oh, the Wi-Fi is in the front room. I shouldn't be able to get a full speed signal in the bedroom. I'm okay streaming Netflix at 720p or even 480p. But that shouldn't be the case. With modern Wi-Fi, you should get a pretty decent signal across your whole home. And there's a number of things that you can do that, and you should expect more from your Wi-Fi. It's not, you don't pay 30, 35 pounds for 80 megs a come, even more than that for gigabit speeds. So you can't, you don't get a full Wi-Fi experience up in a bedroom, your study, where you work, or anything like that. So I think people should expect more from their Wi-Fi. So we've got a few tips here, and well, one of the things we're going to talk about is antennas. We're going to talk about placement, just basically how to improve that whole home coverage. So on the screen there is the D-Link DIR 5460. Resembles some kind of an upside down insect, as we're often told, with all of the antennas sticking out. But the antenna are actually very important, and we'll talk about that a bit later on. So when it comes to router placement, we can't obviously all do this, but the ideal placement for the router is dead center of the property, as you can see on the diagram here. And so you've got the antennas pointing to the left to power all of the stuff in the dining room and in the living, so in the kitchen area, and then pointing in the other direction to send a signal to the TV, the hi-fi, and in the seating areas. So in this case, this is absolutely ideal. Now we understand that not everybody's house is as well laid out as this. Not everybody's internet connection will come in and allow them to do that. But central placement of the router is ideal, and as close to that as you can get is the ideal solution. We touched earlier on radio waves and how a router broadcasts out its signal. So the ideal thing for a router is not to place it near a certain number of items. So in this case, radio waves have trouble getting through water. So if it's all possible, don't put your router near an aquarium or a fish tank, because that will dampen the radio waves and destroy part of the signal that comes out. As we already said, don't put it near your microwave, because again, that will interfere with the signal. Other devices in the home that will broadcast similar waves would be something like a baby monitor or something like that. So don't keep your router near your baby monitors or anything that's transmitting a signal out all the time. And finally, one of the ones that isn't so well known is insulation. So if you've got a thickly insulated wall, try not to put your router next to it. Try to keep it next to a plasterboard wall or something like that if it has to be near to a wall, because plasterboard, again, will stop the transmission of those radio waves. So you want it to be in an open sort of airy area, so that it can really broadcast that signal out as far as it can. Now, what we can do to further that is we can position the aerials or the antennas in a much better fashion. As you saw there, antennas, they do more than dance. They are, you can imagine each antenna on top of it, there is a donut of signal. So you want to direct that donut of signal in the direction in which it needs to be. So in the example of the first of the house that we just looked at, you're covering the first floor, but you also want the signal to go upstairs. So this sort of positioning of antennas would be ideal, because the broadcast would be being sent upwards, and then you've got the antennas on the side to send the signal out to the left and to the right. So ideally in this situation, I would flatten the antennas more, the front two antennas more, to cover the left and right of the first floor, and then leave the two back antennas to send the signal upstairs as best you can. So if you think about that when you're positioning your antennas, there is a circle of signal that comes off the top of them, and try to position them best. So that's why it's always better to have more antennas. So the example of the 5460 we saw on the previous slide, there's 6 antennas, so that gives you even more coverage of the area. The next thing you can do to lighten the load of the Wi-Fi signal, we've all got new devices, we've all got bits that connect to the Wi-Fi. I mean, even my washer dryer connects to the internet now, which is absolutely crazy. But that can cause interference within your own house. The number of devices that are connecting to the wireless at one time can drag the performance. And all of our routers either come with 3 or 4 gigabit ports on the back of them. So our advice is always use as many of these gigabit ports as you can. So for instance, my router's in the front room, I have my TV wired up, I have my PlayStation 5 wired up, I have my desktop PC wired up, all of those devices that are the most important. We always have a saying at D-Link, if you can, use a wire. Obviously, we don't want you to run wires all the way across your house and fall over and cause trip hazards, but if you can, wire it up. And if 3 or 4 gigabit ports isn't enough, then you can buy a very cheap device, such as an unmanaged switch, for around 13 to 14 pounds, and add 5 ports, or slightly more to add 8 ports, additional wires to your connection, which will give you a more stable performance than just using the Wi-Fi. And then leave the Wi-Fi for the devices that aren't wired in, like a wireless camera where it's a long way away from the device, or devices that are upstairs, such as your laptop when you're working from home. I forgot about the nice little animation on that one.
Very nice. So
onto the piece here, which is if all else fails, an extender. The cheapest ways to increase the signal around your house is to look at an extender. In this case, we have the E15, which flies into your wall to extend the internet around the house. So this model is a Wi-Fi 6 AX 1500 extender. Simply plug it into the wall and connect it up. If you have an existing D-Link router, you can do it all through the Eagle Pro app. You can still do it through the Eagle Pro app if you don't have a D-Link router, but the connection that this will produce won't be mesh. It will just be a simple extension. So to get the full experience from the E15 extender, it has to be combined with other members of the Eagle Pro ecosystem, which we'll talk a little bit more about going forwards. So sometimes some houses just are awkward shapes, or they have a lot of insulation in the walls, which can really dampen down the Wi-Fi signal. They just a lot of bungalows cover a lot of surface area, or a 3-story house, something of that description. And no matter how powerful the router is, it's just not going to be enough to cover all of the bases. In that kind of scenario, we look to a mesh solution, a full mesh solution. And in this case, we're looking at a 3 mesh node system for this particular house here. So how to position these nodes? So we've got 3 nodes to look at. So this first node is going to cover the living room area, and it will also cover a little bit of the outside area there. If I'm assuming those are French doors, and then outside of that is a garden type area. So this will cover that area. The second node we have placed in the kitchen, and once again this node will cover the kitchen area, the breakfast bar, and also send out a signal that might reach into the back of the property, the back garden. And then the final node we have placed upstairs in the bedroom, so that browsing in the bedroom, watching Netflix, all that kind of stuff is taken care of, or any office work that's going on upstairs, or if there's a balcony there. So positioning your cover units, it's a case of trying to space them out equally, trying to make sure that each area is covered well, because what they do is they take the signal from the other node, they connect to the previous node, and they will amplify the signal out. So similar to an extender, but a mesh solution, it's kind of more all in one. It all broadcasts the same SSID, which I know is a problem for a lot of people. So you can be on the call with your boss. You can realize that there's a lot of noise coming into your office area, so you can take your computer downstairs. You've clicked off of the upstairs internet onto the downstairs internet, and you lose the connection. One of the advantages of mesh is that you never lose the connection, because it's the same connection running through all 3 units. And we have something on our thing called smart steering, which will keep you connected to the closest unit that's giving out the strongest signal, no matter where you are in the house. So that's how to best position a mesh solution around the house. So that was a lot of talking from me. On to the next question again with
the next question. It was all very interesting, Alan. Don't worry, I was absolutely glued. My ear was glued. Okay, yeah. So the next question, and I completely, I'm so behind this. So question 5, moving on to question 5. When you purchase new technology products, how do you gather info? Okay, this is a really interesting breakdown. Most people watch videos. We know that 1 in 3 web searches do end up in a video, in watching a video. So 33% of people watch YouTube videos to find out about new technology products, followed by social media, a friend's recommendation, Amazon, and then just magazines and reviews. That kind of makes sense in this world. But I guess it's about, can we rely on those videos to give us the right information? And does it make sense to be looking for those for inspiration and reliable, credible reviews, Alan?
I think if you're watching one of my videos, you can definitely rely on it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean I obviously see a lot of videos about routers, and I see a lot of the snippets and then the more in-depth discussions. And I mean, people tend to tell the truth. They tend to stick to the specs, what you should expect from each sort of thing. And I think that in general, when we send our stuff out for YouTubers to review, we don't pay them in any way, shape or form. We expect a proper review, so we can take away that advice, and hopefully the review will be good, and 90% of the time that it is good. But the 10% of the time that it isn't good, then maybe there's a firmware patch that will come out the back of that. And it did happen with one of our products previously, where we had tested it to the hilt, but then some expert reviewer out there found this small problem that it was having. So back to the lab, get the patch out, and everything was corrected within a couple of weeks. Like we didn't really see many people experience this thing, but that's the power of reviews. So we don't want glowing 5-star reviews for everything if it doesn't deserve it. We want proper reviews that tell us, well, okay, this could be better if we do this, because anything that we can patch, anything that we can fix with firmware, we'll always get out there and do it as soon as we can. I look at this, and I look at YouTube videos and social media, and I think, well, a lot of social media is videos. A lot of Amazon reviews, people will go on, they'll look at the product, there'll be a video on there, there'll be 2 or 3 videos on some of our listings, talking about what the product is, and then going into more what the product does, which is the kind of stuff that I always like to see, which is you'll get a video that will go on about feeds and speeds and all this other stuff, but what does it actually do? And that's what we try and do in these videos, is talk about the tangible benefits of having a faster internet speed versus blinding people with stats and figures and statistics. And I suppose the other ones, I mean, online, offline magazine reviews, I think less people are using those now. They still have their place, and they're very good, and we get them out there. But I think less people are buying into print media, unfortunately. So I think expected. And you do trust your friends a little bit more. So if your friend says this brand is good, then you're more than likely. I just hope that your friends actually know what they're talking about when it comes to these kind of products.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. I agree. I have to say, I like watching videos for everything now, whether it's tech or just cook recipes or cooking. Like, I just find it easier to consume videos than I do somebody talking at me or I'm listening. You know, it's just, that's just how my brain works. But okay, so now we will go on to the next question, which is about how people feel about the way their routers look. And we asked the question, is your router hidden due to the way it looks? And 58% yes and 42% no. I mean, I 100% am behind this. I hate routers. They're so ugly. They're getting marginally better, but generally speaking, they are not an attractive piece of tech.
Yeah, routers per se, I can't see much wrong with mesh units. I think mesh units look quite nice. So they look like little air humidifiers, I think, in a lot of cases. So I always recommend people look at those. But I always use the story, and it relates back to the friend's recommendation, because a friend of mine who knows where I work here was having problems with his signal reaching upstairs. So he asked me to have a look at it, and I went to his house, and basically he was keeping his router inside a wooden box. And so I lifted off the wooden box, and this whoosh of heat dissipated from it where the router had been kept in there, and it was running at a very, very high temperature. It was hot when I touched it, and so my first piece of advice was, don't put your router in a box. I said, similar to myself, if you have to keep your router out of sight, if you're that embarrassed by it, put it behind something that's not going to interfere with it. So or put it, just don't block it in and not allow any airflow to get to it, because that's not going to be the box will interfere with the aerials. Maybe if the box isn't big enough, you can't push the aerials in the directions that you need to. Yes, don't put the router in a box. But yeah, try.
Nobody puts baby in the corner.
Yeah, exactly. So don't. And I mean, like I said, if it's that bad, then mesh units are probably the way to go, because they just look like little air humidifiers or something similar, more ornamental. But Sophie said routers are beginning to look better. The next slide shows like the next range of Eagle Pro devices that we have either out now or coming very soon. So you can see on there that they're designed to be more, in Sophie's words, lifestyle. So they're designed to blend into the background a little bit more than the previous wave did, with antenna everywhere and big bold flashing lights on the front of them. I think the kind of consensus from the public is that some people will want that, gamers and maybe that kind of stuff, but generally for the general public, they want something that's smaller, it blends more in with the background and suits their lifestyle. And that's how the next wave of Eagle Pro devices have been designed.
Fantastic. That's so helpful. I mean, from somebody who sort of obviously I shouldn't be saying this, avoids tech at all costs. I guess like at some point I'm going to be on my own and have to deal with some kind of Wi-Fi drop out, and it's really annoying that you can't, if you can't get someone to help you, it's good to know for yourself how to try and go through those, eliminate those issues. So it's been really helpful for me to hear that from you. Thank you very much. And perhaps we do want again on something similar down the line when, you know, when we've got some other issues that we need to talk about.
Yeah, I mean that's the point, isn't it? If you can take anything away from today's video that improves your Wi-Fi, then that's what we're here for. And just to highlight that you should expect a decent Wi-Fi signal, and it's not very expensive to go out and improve the Wi-Fi if that's the case. Mesh extenders are not super expensive. The 2-node cover units are very often around the £100 mark, and if that gives you a better signal, you know, a lot of people will be going out for Christmas and getting new iPads, new PlayStations, new devices, new bits to add into this ecosystem of their smart home, you know, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 devices, and you just can't expect a 5-6-year-old router to deal with that. So if you are a tech savvy house, just do your internet a favor, buy a present for the internet, and give it that capacity to support all the devices that you're adding in, and it will it will pay you back in droves. That's for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. I agree. Well, thank you so much, Adam. That's been such a help, and I look forward to doing this again soon.
No problem. If there's any questions, the contact details are up on the screen there. You can visit our website there, eu.d-link.com. You can give us a call on 0208 955 9000, or if you want to drop an email, I'm available at the UKI-sales@dlink.com. You can just drop an email there, and we're more than happy to help you out. If you go on the website, there's also a live chat. You can chat with one of our friendly salespeople, or you might find myself on there. I do cover it as well sometimes, and we're always happy to just help you out as best we can with any advice and sage wisdom that we have from our long experience here at D-Link.
Thank you, Alan.
No problem. Thanks. See you all again soon.
Bye.